Welcome back to the False Prophet channel. This is Brother Jacob, and this is the False Prophet channel where we get Islam busted and the false prophet of Islam, Muhammad, busted on a regular basis. In this episode, we will be exposing once again Muslim warrior, aka Muslim cheerleader. And we will be referring to one of his comments based upon a conversation that me and him was having in the comment section. And the reason why I'm using his dialogue is because I'm just using it for a reference point to make a bigger point. It really has nothing to do with him. This Abdul, he's not on my level. It's obvious that he's a fool. He's a racist. He's a nobody. He worships nothing. And that's exactly what this video is about. In this video, we will be proving that Muslims, they don't know what they worship, and that Muslims worship absolutely nothing. But let's read his comment, and then we will read what I responded when I responded to his comment. But let's read Abdul's comment first. This is Muslim cheerleader, okay? Now, this is what he says. Now, before we get started, the conversation was about Muslims referring to Allah as a he or his, which makes no sense. And we will break down my reasons, and then we will get to the conclusion why I say Muslims worship nothing. Now, let's read his comment. He says, "Don't be a beach." I don't know why he always spell it like that. "Everything that exists may be described as a thing. Shay. That is, it is something that exists out there in the world. Allah, may he be exalted, has a true essence that does exist. So he may be referred to as Shay, a thing, as in the verse in which he may be exalted says, interpretation of the meaning, say what thing is greatest in testimony. Say Allah is witness between me and you." Al-Anam 619. So the word Shay may refer both to the eternal Al-Qadim, meaning Allah, and to the created being. And mind you, he didn't write this, so don't think Abdul is this smart. This is something that he copied and pasted from somewhere. But we'll continue to read it. It doesn't matter. They all the same, and Abdul is an Abdul. If you find an aluminum can on the side of the street, and if you find an aluminum can in a garbage can, it's all the same. So the word Shay may refer both to the eternal Al-Qadim, meaning Allah, and to the created being. He just copied and pasted this from somewhere. And to the created being, to the necessary being, that which must exist, namely Allah, and the contingent being, that which may exist. In fact, concepts may also be referred to as things, Ashay, plural of Shay, because they exist in the mind. I'm happy he used that. Remember this, exist in the mind. But Allah don't enter into creation. Yes, I'm so happy he copied and pasted this. But we're going to get him when I respond to his comment. We're going to break it down and show you how Allah does not exist. Okay, so he says, because they exist in the mind. Keep that in mind. The key word he used, mind. And that which does not exist may be referred to as a thing in the knowledge of Allah, although it is not a thing in existence, okay? Imam al-Bukhari, may Allah have mercy on him, said in his Sahih chapter on this verse, say what thing is greatest in testimony, say Allah, may he be exalted, and referred to himself as a thing, and the Prophet, blessings and peace of Allah be upon him, called the Quran a thing, and the Quran, is one of the attributes of Allah, and Allah says, interpretation of the meaning, everything will be destroyed except his face. Okay, so everything will be destroyed except the face of nothing. Okay, now let's break down what let's break down what he's trying to say. He's making an argument that Allah may be called a thing, okay, and that he has an essence that does exist, but Abdul cannot tell you what that essence is. Because what do the Muslims always tell us? They say, Allah has a hand. How many of you have heard the Muslims say this? Allah has a hand, but his hand is not like any hand in creation. His hand is not like anything that you have ever seen. Allah may have a face, but it's not like any face that you've ever seen. No one can know or even fathom what the face of Allah is like. It may say Allah has a shin, but no one is not like your shin and my shin. Allah's shin is not like anything in creation, but yet you're calling it a shin. Okay, but we're going to break it all down. Allah has a shin, but it's not like any shin that you can imagine. Okay, it's not like any shin or any hand that you can imagine. So basically, it's just letters, H-A-N-D. But you can't place these letters that you are naming Allah's hand with, but the word hand cannot fit a description for Allah's hand. So the hand word that you are using for Allah's hand is only letters, H-A-N-D. It means nothing. So the Muslims say, you can't, it says hand, but it's not hand that you can imagine. It's not like your hand and my hand with 5 digits, like 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 finger, 4 finger, and a thumb. It's not that hand. We just use the word hand. You get what I'm saying? So their usage of words, when it's applied to Allah, it means nothing. It's just letters. Because normally when you use words, words apply to things that you can taste, touch, hear, see, smell, and conceive and perceive with your consciousness. But Muslims say Allah is undetectable and he is inconceivable. No mind can conceive Allah. No mind can detect Allah. Allah is not a spirit. Allah is not matter. Allah is not energy. Allah is not his attributes. And even when they talk about the attributes of Allah, Allah is all merciful. And then when someone presented the argument of, okay, I thought you said Allah is not like anything in creation. Oh, yeah, but his mercy is not like your mercy. So what type of mercy is Allah? It's some mercy that no mind can know. No mind can conceive. Nothing in creation is like the mercy of Allah. So they don't know what the mercy of Allah is. Allah is all true. He's all true. Al-Haq. Allah is the truth. Al-Haq. But Allah's truth is not your truth. Our truth would be, is 1 + 1 2? Yes, 1 + 1 = 2. But Allah's truth is not 1 + 1 = 2. Because Allah is not like anything in creation. Allah is not like me. He's not like you. He's not like your little dog Scruffy. He's not like your little cat. He's not like anything in creation. Allah is not like anything. So as you see, they use words, but when they apply words to their God, they have no meaning. So everything that Muslims say in reference to Allah, it's only letters. They don't know anything about their God. Okay? Now, we just breaking this down to basically rip up and tear up his little copy and pasted thing that he left us. Okay? Now, he says, even when he says, read the part where it says, Allah, may he be exalted, has a true essence. They don't know what that word essence means when it relates to Allah. Because essence, as we know it, has nothing to do with the essence of what Allah is. They don't even, every word that they use in reference to Allah, it falls flat. It has no meaning. Because again, Allah is not like anything in creation. He's outside of everything. He's outside of time. He's outside of space. Allah is just, you can't even say he's far out. Because to say far out would be a reference to time and space. You're dealing with distance. Close, the opposite of close is far. The opposite of out is in. So you can't even say Allah is far out. Because he used, look, he can't even say, look, he said, everything that exists may be described as a thing that is, it is something that exists out there in the world. He can't even use that in reference to Allah because out there gives reference to time and space because the opposite of out is in. When you say there, that's in reference to a place. Like if you say their place is over there. Over there. There designates a place within time and space. So he can't even this thing he copied and pasted and tried to show me, it makes no sense. It all falls flat when you try to apply it to Allah. None of it makes sense. And then let's continue to read. And this is when it really goes down the drain. Where's that part when he used the word mind? Let's show it. In fact, concepts may also be referred to as things because they exist in the mind, okay? But guess what, Abdul? Your God is not a concept because a concept is something that exists in the mind. Your Allah cannot enter into creation. And look what else he said. Look what else he copied and pasted in what he wrote. The knowledge of Allah, although it is not a thing in existence. That's it. He busted himself. He's telling you. He thought he was getting me busted, but what he copied and pasted is proving my point. Let's read. In fact, concepts may also be referred to as things because they exist in the mind. But Allah can't exist in your mind. He can't exist in your mind because your mind, your mind is a part of creation. And Allah does not enter into his creation. So he can't even enter into the mind of the Abdul. He can't enter into the mind of the Muslim. Okay? And that which does not exist may be referred to as a thing. Look at this. This doesn't even make sense. And that which does not exist may be referred to as a thing. How can something that does not exist be referred to as a thing. That's a contradiction within the phrase. Do y'all see how messed up these Muslims are? Look at the wording. And that which does not exist may be referred to as a thing. If it doesn't exist, how can it be referred to as a thing? When the very word thing was made for things that exist, because all words were created for the usage within time and space. I don't know what they be teaching these Abduls and these masjids or these ISIS training camps. I don't know what they be teaching them, but they just brainwash these people. And this Muslim cheerleader, he is a victim of being brainwashed from the time he was a little kid all the way up to now. That's why he is the way that he is. Islam destroys your brain cells. This Muslim warrior, this Muslim cheerleader, his brain cells are fried like fried bananas. This guy is nuts. And imagine a book called the Quran, it fried his brain cells. Look at this foolishness. Look at the hypocrisy in what he showed me. And that which does not exist may be referred to as a thing. But you just said it does not exist. And then you say it may be referred to as a thing when the word thing is made for things that exist. So how can something that does not exist be referred to as a thing? There is a clash in the words. The concept, the word, the phrase, it's a collision. It's a contradiction even within the wording. This is crazy. They exist in the mind, and that which does not exist may be referred to as a thing in the knowledge of Allah. But they don't even know what Allah is. So how can you be speaking about the knowledge of something that you don't even know what it is? Although it's not a thing in existence. Now you're saying it's not a thing in existence. Contradicting yourself again. Let's read this one paragraph again. Do y'all see this? In fact, concepts may also be referred to as things because they exist in the mind. And that which does not exist, concepts exist in the mind, and that which does not exist may be referred to as a thing. But a thing is something that exists. So how can something that does not exist be referred to as a thing, Abdul? In the knowledge of Allah. But you don't even know what Allah is because you tell us that his knowledge is not like our knowledge. Oh my gosh. This is sad. Although it is not a thing in existence, this is about as worse as that Quran verse where it says, I don't worship what you worship, and you don't worship what I worship, and you don't eat what I eat, and I eat what you eat, and you don't eat what I... This... Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Then he leaves something by Imam al-Bukhari. May Allah Imam al-Bukhari, may Allah have mercy on him. And in his Sahih chapter on the verse say, what thing is greatest in testimony? Say Allah may he be exalted, refer to himself as a thing, Shay, and the Prophet, blessings and peace of Allah be upon him. Called the Quran a thing, And the Quran, is one of the attributes of Allah. And Allah says interpretation of the meaning, everything will be destroyed except his face. So this is supposed to be his proof because Allah called himself a thing, but Allah's version of thing, according to Muslims, is not the same thing that we call thing because Allah is not like anything in creation. So you still left at ground zero, not knowing what thing means, what Allah means, and Allah. How can Allah call himself a thing? Again, it goes back to the fact that the word thing is made for usage within time and space. So how can Allah call himself thing and make sense? That does not make sense. That's just throwing words around and having no meaning with the very word. That's what that is. You know what a thing is? So if Allah is a thing, that means he is an idol. So are you saying that you worship an idol? A thing is an object. You don't call a human being a thing. That would be disrespectful because a human has a spirit and a soul. So if Allah calls himself a thing, that means he is no different than a piece of wood or metal. He's calling himself a thing. Your God Almighty, you saying that he's calling himself a thing? Let's read it again. What thing is greatest in testimony? So your Allah is a thing. You refer to it as a thing. What thing is greatest in testimony? So you Muslims, you worship a thing now? A thing? What kind of thing? You still back at ground zero. Is this thing a spirit? Is this Allah thing a spirit? Or is it letters? Thing. Okay, thing, but what? If somebody was in a conversation with you, let's just say if you was in a classroom and your teacher said, excuse me, let me make up a student name. Excuse me, Danny, can you hand me that thing over there? And then if you was to ask the teacher, excuse me, Miss, let me make up a name. Excuse me, Miss Abdul, what thing are you talking about? The thing that's outside of creation, Danny. You would scratch your head and say, Miss Abdul, what are you talking about? What thing? Danny, just hand me the thing. What are you talking about, Miss Abdul? The thing, Danny, don't you see it? No, what thing? The desk? No, Danny, not the desk. The thing that's outside of creation that nobody can describe and is not like anything in creation and no one has ever seen it before and it's not like the things in the classroom. It's not like anything, Danny, but can you just hand me the darn thing? You know what they would do? They would send that teacher to the psychiatric ward. Because that teacher would be insane, using words without meaning. And this is exactly what the Abduls do. They are crazy. Now you see why they don't have no problem strapping bombs to their body, going into a building, igniting the bomb, blowing themselves up, because their brain cells are fried. And they wonder why we come hard at this religion, because it's a dangerous religion. It creates zombies. If something like this spread, you will end up having a zombie apocalypse on the world. These Abduls, their brain cells are fried. Now let me read my comment that I responded to the Abdul. And this is what I said to him. Now it's time to get to the real logic brother Jacob. Now let's talk to him about the real logic. I said, Abdul, you are trying real hard, but still failing. You Muslims say Allah is separate from his attributes. So even if you call his attributes a name like all merciful, that's still not saying exactly what is Allah. Because of all the things that I described, when they say merciful, they don't say it's the mercy that we know. It's some mercy that's unknown. Okay. So it doesn't exist. Okay. So even if you call his attributes a name like all merciful, that's still not saying exactly what is Allah. Allah is not a thing, idea, or a concept, Abdul, because all of those things I named can fit within your consciousness. And your consciousness is a creation of Allah. But you Muslims say Allah does not enter into his creation. So that means, Abdul, and I have to use the word his, even though I don't want to, but what would you say if you don't use the word his? A blank spot? It'll just be a blank spot. But for lack of a better term, you just have to say his. Allah is not a thing, idea, or a concept, Abdul, because all of those things I named can fit within your consciousness. And your consciousness is a creation of Allah. But you Muslims say Allah does not enter into his creation. So that means, Abdul, that your mind is incapable of thinking about Allah because he does not enter into his creation. And your very brain and mind, excuse me, is the creation of Allah, Abdul. And Allah can't fit into your consciousness because he doesn't enter his creation, Abdul. It's no way around it, Abdul. It's no way around it, Abdul. It's no way around it, Abdul. Allah does not enter into his creation, period. So as a Muslim, you can never know what Allah is, Abdul. All you know, Abdul, as a Muslim, is that you worship a name called Allah, but you don't know anything about I left a blank spot, that the name's supposed to represent. And I left the blank space because that's all you have for Allah, nothing. So when you say Allah, you were just making a sound, Abdul. Your God is not even a spirit. It's not that what they tell us Christians. They say Allah is not a spirit. Your God is not even a spirit. You don't even know what you are calling upon, Abdul. Your religion is just a sound, LOL. You worship letters, Abdul. Your God is these 5 letters, A, L, L, A, H. Or what is it? What's the Arabic letters? The aleph, the lam, and the ha. So in Arabic, it'll be the aleph, the lam, and the ha. It'll be those 4 letters, but you still get my drift. You don't even know what you are calling upon, Abdul. Your religion is just a sound, LOL. You worship letters, Abdul. Your God is these 5 letters. A, L, L, A, H. Other than that, Abdul, you know nothing about Allah. Now, let's say, for instance, Abdul, if I erase the letters A, L, L, A, H, then what would you have? You get my point? You couldn't even say you worship a spirit. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? If somebody asks you, what do you worship without the letters that spell A, L, L, A, H, then what would you say, Abdul? You couldn't tell the person that you worship a spirit. You couldn't say you worship energy. You couldn't say you worship anything, Abdul. You would be left blank. And that's exactly what Allah is. When you take away each letter, it turns to nothing. Let me show you, Abdul. And as you see, I made a little diagram. I have the A, the L, the L, the A, the H. Now watch me strip away the letters. And as you see, I stripped away the H. So you have A, L, L, A, stripped away the H. Then when you remove the A, you're left with ALL. Then when you remove another L, you're left with AL. And then when you remove the A, you're left with nothing. Because they can't tell you what Allah is without the letters. And that is what you are left with, Abdul. Absolutely nothing. You worship nothing but letters in a word, Abdul. Subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. Do everybody understand what I'm saying? Like, for the Abduls who probably slow, I know the Christians aren't slow, but the Abduls, they brain cells are fried. So let me explain. A Muslim, as we have explained, they don't know anything about whatever they worship. Only thing they know is the name, Allah. That's all they know. So in a hypothetical situation, if you would strip away the letters of that name like I showed you, and if then somebody asked them what they worship without them saying the name Allah, they wouldn't know. They couldn't say, we worship the Great Spirit. They couldn't even say that. They couldn't say, we worship energy. They couldn't say anything. They wouldn't even know. But if you did the same thing for a Christian, and if you took away the letters Yahweh and asked the Christian what he worshiped, he can still say, oh, I worship the Supreme Spirit. You see, we could still say what we worship. If you even a Buddhist, if you strip the letters away from the word Buddha and all the Buddhist was left with, he could still point to his statue and say, you see, I worship that statue over there, that wooden statue. But the Muslim, if you take away his letters, the Allah, the ALLAH, he don't know what he worships. After you take away the letters, what do you worship, Muslim warrior? Tell me what you worship. Only thing he can say is Inshallah, Alhamdulillah. He can't even say. He doesn't know. So I hope everybody enjoyed my my video. Use this letter diagram that I showed you. This is a good witnessing tool to Muslims. For the Christians and for the Muslim, this is a good tool to open your eyes up and to awaken you out of that darkness. I hope you realize that as you Muslims, you floating around in space worshiping nothing. That's exactly what you worship. You worship nothing. So that means you living your life for nothing. Literally. These Muslims, they go to Hajj to worship nothing. They go to Hajj to circle a shoebox to worship a God of nothing. And that's sad. That's very sad. It's not even funny because it's like 1 billion Muslims worldwide worshiping nothing. They are hopeless. Muslims are hopeless. Christians, they really need help. And this is why I do this channel, because somebody has to be the light in this world of darkness. And God chose me to do this. And with that, this is Brother Jacob, and this is the False Prophet channel where we get Islam busted and the false prophet of Islam, Muhammad, busted on a regular basis. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave your comments below. And this is Brother Jacob signing out.